Left to die, rain fell hard over the alien jungle. Cold drops hit Eli Carter's face as he opened his eyes. His head hurt, and the world spun around him. He tried to move, but groaned in pain. Something was broken. Maybe his leg, maybe more. He looked up at the sky, but it wasn't Earth's sky. The colors were wrong to purple, too bright. 3 moons floated above the trees. Eli's heart sank. He remembered the mission, his squad, the crash, then silence. He had blacked out. Now he was alone. His helmet was gone, his weapon lost. He could hear strange birds calling in the distance. And something else, something growling. He pulled himself toward a large root sticking out from the ground and pressed his back against it. His uniform was torn, stained with blood and dirt. He checked his belt, hoping for supplies. A small knife, a flare, 1 water capsule, that was all. He shouted, "This is Corporal Eli Carter, Unit 9. Anyone hear me?" Only the jungle answered, with rustling leaves and buzzing insects. No reply, no signal. His device was crushed. Eli closed his eyes and tried to think. His team should have found him by now. They had drones, scanners, tracking gear. But no one had come. Then the thought hit him hard and cold. What if they weren't coming at all? What if they had left him here on purpose? He remembered the last moments before the crash. Captain Reyes had been acting strange, whispers in the dark, secret messages between officers. And now this, alone, injured, in the middle of a dangerous alien jungle. A roar echoed from the trees. Loud, close, not a machine, not human. Eli grabbed the small knife and crouched low. His breathing was sharp, chest tight. He couldn't run. Not like this. So he moved slowly, step by step, deeper into the jungle. The leaves brushed his face, thick and waxy. Some glowed faintly in the dark. The whole place felt alive, like it was watching him. Hours passed, or maybe just minutes. Time was strange here. Every shadow looked like a monster. Every sound made him flinch. He found a shallow cave beneath a fallen tree and crawled in. His body ached, his hand shook. But he was alive. For now, he chewed a leaf he found nearby, hoping. It wasn't poisonous. It tasted bitter, but gave him a bit of strength. He used a sharp stick to make a small fire. Smoke rose slowly, and the warmth helped calm him. That's when he saw it. A small metal cube, half buried in the ground, near the fire. He pulled it out, wiped off the mud. It was a motion sensor military tech. Not alien, not wild. Someone had placed it there. Eli's eyes widened. He wasn't alone. Someone had been watching him, tracking him. Maybe they still were. He stood up, weak but alert. This wasn't just bad luck. This jungle was no accident. It was a test field, and he was the test subject. But why? Then the truth hit him. The mission wasn't about exploration. It wasn't about peace or science. It was a trap. He was never supposed to come back. His squad had used him bait for something else. He gritted his teeth. If they wanted him dead, they should have tried harder. Eli wasn't going to die here, not without a fight. He tore a piece of cloth from his sleeve, tied it around his leg to stop the bleeding. He took a sharp stone and fastened it to a stick, making a crude spear. He looked out into the jungle, eyes hard. "I don't care who's watching," he whispered. "You picked the wrong human." And with that, Eli stepped back into the shadows, not as a victim, but as a man who refused to be hunted. Not anymore. Eli felt the jungle breathing, not with air, but with presence, like the trees had eyes, like the leaves whispered secrets, and somewhere in the shadows, something watched him. He walked slowly, spear in hand. The pain in his leg was sharp, but he kept moving. He didn't know where he was going, only that staying still meant death. He could hear creatures in the distance, screeches, howls, and meh. Clicks he couldn't name, but louder than the jungle was the silence behind him. The kind of silence that meant he wasn't alone. Eli stopped. Something rustled nearby soft. Careful, he spun and pointed his spear. Who's there? He whispered. No answer. Then a glinched for a second between two trees. A shimmer like glass or armor. He stepped back, heart pounding. Show yourself, he said, louder now. Still nothing. He turned around and froze. A shape stood just 10 feet behind him, tall, thin, with pale skin that almost blended with the jungle mist. Its eyes were large, glowing a soft blue. Not animal, not human, alien. It didn't move. Just watched. Eli raised his spear. But his hands trembled. The creature tilted its head, curious, not angry, not afraid. Then it did something strange. It pointed at his spear, then at the ground. Slow, careful. Eli lowered the weapon, confused. The creature took a step forward. Its movement was smooth, almost silent. Then it spoke not in words, but in tones. 3 short hums, followed by a low growl he didn't understand. But the message felt clear. Not threat, not friend. Something in between. He tried speaking back. I'm not here to fight. I was left behind. He tapped his chest. Eli. Then pointed to the sky. Human. The alien blinked slowly. Then reached into a pouch and pulled out a small device. It pressed a button, and the device projected a simple image of human, standing beside a cage. Inside the cage was another human, bloody, hurt. The alien looked at Eli and said one word. This time in clear basic bait. Eli's stomach turned. They knew this creature, whoever it was, knew the truth. The alien pointed to the ground, then the trees. Then the sky. Test zone, it said. Then it pointed at him. You. Watched. Eli nodded slowly. Yes, he whispered. They used me. The alien stepped back and motioned for him to follow. It moved with grace. Slipping between vines and branches like water, Eli limped after it, unsure, but with no better option. Maybe this creature had answers. They walked for nearly an hour. The jungle seemed to open for the alien like it respected her. Eli guessed it was female by her body shape and voice. He began to call her Vara in his head. She didn't stop him. Vara led him to a hidden camp, half buried in roots and covered by hanging moss. Inside were tools, food, broken tech, and maps drawn on cloth. Vara pointed at the map. Then at him, center, she said. Tapping a circle. Control, she added. Control what? Eli asked. Vara picked up a piece of shattered armor and tossed it to him. It was human, marked with the same unit patch as his own squad. But the inside was burned. A nameplate read, Private Ross. Eli remembered him. Young, quiet, always writing letters to his sister. He'd been on the ship too. Eli clenched his fists. This was never a rescue mission. He said, they dumped us here to see who survives. Vara nodded slowly. Then pointed again at the circle on the map. She drew a tower above it. A small signal icon at the top. Eli understood. Communications hub, surveillance center, if they could reach it. Maybe they could call for help or expose whoever did this. Vara handed him a fruit, soft and sweet. He hadn't eaten all day as he ate. She cleaned his wound and tied it with plant fibers. Her hands were rough but careful. Not human but kind. Eli looked at her and asked, why help me? Vara didn't answer with words. Instead, she pulled back her sleeve and showed a long scar, then pointed to a broken collar on the ground. She had been bait too. Once, left to die in the same jungle. But she survived, just like him. Now, they would survive together. The fire crackled softly as night fell. Eli stared at the map, heart heavy. The jungle had taken many lives, but it gave him something back, a chance. and he wasn't going to waste it. The next morning, the jungle was quiet. Too quiet. Even the birds had gone silent. Eli opened his eyes slowly. He and Vara had taken turns watching during the night. Now, she was crouched at the edge of the camp, staring into the trees, her back was stiff, her hands gripping her spear tight. Eli limped over, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "What is it?" he asked. Vara raised one finger to her lips, then pointed ahead. There was something out there. Not an animal, not a person, something worse, a machine. Eli crouched next to her and listened. A soft clicking noise, slow and steady, like metal. Legs touching stone. Then came the hiss of gas and a deep mechanical growl. They watched from behind the vines as a tall, spider-like machine moved between the trees. Its body was black and smooth, covered in sharp angles. Long legs clicked with each step, and its head spun slowly like it was sniffing the air. "A hunter," Vara whispered. Her voice held fear. Eli had never seen her afraid before. The machine paused near a tree, then fired a dart into the bark. The tree groaned, and a strange red mist burst from the impact. Anything standing near that would be dead in seconds. Eli stepped back, heart racing. "They're clearing the area," he said. "Oh, are testing how we react." Vara led him deeper into the jungle. They moved fast and quiet, sticking to the shadows, but everywhere they turned, more traps waited. One vine was actually a motion wire. A puddle hid a laser sensor. Even the rocks had sharp spikes underneath. This jungle was more than wild, it was engineered, built to break people like Eli. He turned to Vara, breathing hard. "How long have you been in here?" She didn't answer with numbers, just held up both hands, then 5 fingers. 10 cycles. Too long, yet she was still alive, still fighting. They found an old path, partly covered in moss. Metal plates under the dirt hinted it was once used by the military. Vara stopped him before stepping on it. She threw a stick ahead instantly. The ground split open, giant metal jaws snapped shut, grinding the stick into dust. Eli stared. "That could have been me." Vara nodded. She pointed to the trees above. Small blinking lights watched from the branches. "Cameras, they're recording everything," Eli said. "Whoever set this up, they're watching us like lab rats." He picked up a rock and threw it at one of the cameras. It hit and sparks flew. The red light turned off. "Good," he said. "They can watch this," but his satisfaction didn't last. A sharp tone echoed through the jungle. Vara's eyes widened. The tone repeated, louder this time. "What is that?" Eli asked. "Warning," Vara said quickly. Then she grabbed his arm and pulled him to the side just as something crashed through the canopy. It was a drone, fast and deadly. Blades on its sides, scanners on its chest. It spun toward them, targeting Eli first. He rolled behind a tree as the drone fired a stream of red-hot energy. Bark exploded. Flames burst from the wood. Vara threw her spear, hitting the drone's sensor. It screamed and turned toward her. "No!" Eli shouted. He grabbed a metal rod from the ground, probably a broken trap, and ran at the drone. It turned to slowly. Eli slammed the rod into its side and hit the core. The drone sparked wildly, then exploded in smoke and fire. He landed hard on his back, coughing from the smoke. Vara ran to him, pulled him up. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. They just crossed a line. Now, the jungle wasn't just testing them. It was hunting them. They ran again, this time toward the center. Vara's map had shown a large structure hidden deep, surrounded by the most traps. If there was a way out or a way to fight back, it would be there. On the way, they found old camps, bones, and broken gear. Each place told the same story. Humans had been brought here before. Few survived, but none of them had Vara. And none of them had Eli's reason to keep going. They reached a ridge and looked down. There it was. A black tower. Half buried in the jungle, covered in roots and moss. But still active red lights blinking along its walls. That was it, the control center. Tomorrow, Eli said, we get inside. Vara looked at the tower, then at him. She gave a small nod. Not of fear, but of readiness. They weren't running anymore, they were fighting back. Eli stood at the edge of the ridge, staring down at the black tower. It didn't make a sound. No alarms, no guards, no movement. It looked dead, but he knew. Better dead things don't watch you. Vara crouched beside him. Her eyes locked on the blinking red lights near the tower's top. They blinked slow, like a heartbeat. It wasn't a building. It was a machine, and it was alive. They waited until the sky turned gray. Just before dawn, the jungle behind them was quiet, almost like it was holding its breath. Eli took a deep one himself and checked his gear. One spear, one flare, and a broken knife. Vara handed him a small square of metal. Hide signal, she said. He didn't ask how it worked. He just tied it to his chest and hoped they moved fast. Slipping down the slope and through the trees, no alarms triggered, no drones came. The closer they got to the tower, the less sound there was. No animals, no wind, even their footsteps. Felt like whispers. At the base of the tower, they found a door, or what used to be one. Twisted metal and burn marks told them someone had broken in before, or tried to break out. Inside, it was cold and dry. The walls hummed, almost too quiet to hear. Each step echoed like a shout. Lights flickered above. But most were dark. Eli touched the wall. It was warm. The building wasn't silent. It was listening. They passed a hallway full of glass chambers. Each one held the remains of something. Some human, some not. All of them broken. Some had notes scratched into the glass from inside. One said, "They lied to us." Another said, "We were never soldiers." Eli stopped at one chamber. He pressed his hand to the glass. Inside was a man in full military gear. His body was frozen, mouth open in a silent scream. The nameplate read, LTS Rhodes, Eli's old commander. "He was on my ship," Eli whispered. "He was in charge." Vara looked at him. She didn't speak. But her eyes asked the question, what did he do? Eli didn't answer. He didn't. No, but something was very wrong. Rhodes was supposed to be leading the mission, not dying in a glass box. They continued down the hallway. At the end was a steel door with a glowing panel. Eli placed his hand on it. The panel blinked once, then opened. Inside was a round room filled with screens. Each screen showed a part of the jungle, cameras, sensors, data, live feeds, and on one screen Eli, standing in front of the camera. Staring at himself, it was recorded just seconds ago. He turned to Vara, shocked. "They've been watching us this whole time?" Vara walked to a nearby console and pressed a button. A low voice played through the speakers. Subject 47 shows strong survival instincts. Emotional connection formed with native. Recommend continued observation. Eli stepped back, heart pounding. He was Subject 47. They had labeled him like an animal. Test rat, not a person. He walked up to the main terminal and hit buttons at random. The screens changed maps, names, videos. All of them showed humans. Training, missions, then capture. Some were dropped into fire pits, others hunted by machines. Each one had a number. None of them made it out. He slammed his fist on the desk. They used all of us. They made it a game. Then he saw something worse. A video marked next subject. It showed a new face, seared, scared. He wasn't even trained. Civilian test begins in 12 hours. The file read, Eli. Stared in disbelief. They weren't stopping. They were expanding. He looked at Vara. "We have to end this." She nodded. He searched the console and found a system access panel, but it was locked. They needed a code. Vara walked to a side room and broke the door open. Inside were data cores, thousands of them, glowing with stored memory. She pulled one from the wall and handed it to Eli. He connected it to the terminal. Suddenly, the system began to flash. Red lights blinked. Warnings appeared on every screen. Access breach data upload. Starting. Vara looked nervous, but Eli smiled. "This is it," he said. "I'm sending everything proof files." Faces all of it to the human fleet. Alarm started and the tower shook slightly. A voice echoed. Through the walls, unauthorized access detected. Purge protocol activated. Eli grabbed Vara's hand. "We need to run." But even as they turned, he looked back at the screen one last time. It showed the transmission reaching orbit. Signal sent. Even if they died here, the truth was no longer trapped. Now, the real war would begin. The sky turned red, not from sunset, but from fire. Thick smoke rolled over the treetops. Ash rained down like snow. The jungle wasn't just burning, it was being erased. Eli and Vara ran through the roots and vines. Behind them, explosions echoed. Like thunder, trees cracked and fell. The air stung their eyes and lungs. The tower sent the signal. Eli coughed. "So now they want to destroy the proof." Vara didn't speak. Her face was tight with pain. This jungle had been her home. Now it was a battlefield. They reached a high cliff and looked back. Flames danced across the valley. But it wasn't natural fire. It came from above. Massive ships floated in the sky, dark and silent. From their bellies dropped pods, each one hitting the ground with a deep thud. Then came the fire. Streams of plasma that melted trees like wax. Eli's voice shook. "They're not just cleaning up. They're erasing everything." He looked at Vara. "If we stay down here, we die. If we don't fight, we disappear too." Vara pulled something from her pouch. A small communicator, old and cracked. She whispered into it in her language, then pointed north. "Others," she said, "still hiding." Eli nodded. "Let's find them." They moved through smoke and falling ash. The jungle screamed around them, animals fleeing, trees breaking, the sound of life dying. But not everything was running as they got closer to the northern ridge. Eli saw movement in the mist, figures tall and thin, wearing scrap armor and holding strange weapons. Alien survivors, outcasts, rebels. They stepped out as Vara raised her hand. A few looked ready to strike, till they saw Eli. Their eyes widened. A human, still alive. Still fighting, Vara spoke quickly, pointing to the fire, the ships, the sky. She showed them a data chip, one taken from the tower. Proof. Of the tests, of the murders, of the lies, one of the rebels. An older alien with half a jaw missing stepped forward. He nodded slowly, then dropped a small case at Eli's feet. Inside were explosives, stolen tech, and energy blasters. "We burn it back," the old alien growled. Eli smiled grimly. "Good." He said, "Let's return the favor." They moved fast, striking small towers and drone launchers across the jungle. Each hit sent a wave of confusion into the enemy's network. The fire kept spreading, but now it was joined by explosions from below. The jungle fought back, and for the first time, the skyships hesitated. At night, Eli stood with Vara and the rebels around a fallen satellite dish. He used its parts to boost a signal and sent a short message to orbit. "This is Eli Carter, human survivor of Sector 12 Delta. You lied to us, and we lived. Now we come for truth, then for you." He hit send, then leaned back. Watching the signal bounce off the stars. "They'll hear it," he said. "They'll all hear it." Just then, a shadow moved across the camp. One of the scouts returned. Panting, he said one word. "Mech." Everyone stopped. Vara looked up, her face pale. Then came the sound, deep and slow, like a mountain walking. From the trees came a giant metal walker, tall as a tower, with claws like swords and glowing red eyes. It crushed trees with each step, a machine built for one thing ending. Survivors, panic spread through the camp. Eli shouted, "No more running, set the charges." The rebels placed explosives along the cliff's edge. Eli waited until the mech stepped closer. Its scanners locked onto them. It charged just as it reached the edge. Eli hit the trigger. The cliff exploded. Rocks, dust, and fire filled the sky. The mech toppled forward, arms flailing. It crashed into the burning valley below, vanishing in the flames. Silence, then cheers. They had done it. One machine down, 100 more to go, but something had changed. Eli looked at their faces, aliens, who once hid in fear. Now standing tall, Vara stood beside him, her voice calm but strong. "War begins." Eli nodded. "No more hiding," he said. "No more bait." They had burned the jungle, but from the ashes, a resistance was rising, asterisk high above the burning jungle. Inside, a silent ship floating over the flames. An alien general watched the screen with cold eyes. The image showed a human standing beside a group of rebel aliens. He held no rank, no command codes, no official armor, but they were following him, all of them. The general's voice was low, confused. "Why aren't they running?" An assistant, smaller and nervous, replied, "Sir." The human fights back. The general's claws clicked slowly on the control panel. "Humans are supposed to break," he said, "not lead." Far below, Eli Carter stood beside Vara and stared at the broken remains of a downed scout drone. Smoke rose from its wreckage, and behind him, alien rebels cheered. Eli didn't speak. He just watched the horizon, where more enemy dropships darkened the sky. They were coming fast, faster than before. "They're scared," he said softly. "They thought we'd hide. But now they see what happens when a human stands up." Vara handed him a pulse rifle, one of the few weapons they'd stolen from a crashed carrier. She nodded once. "Ready?" He checked the charge and looked at the others. 12. Species once hunted, once abandoned, now standing in formation. Not soldiers, but fighters. Not soldiers, but free. They'd seen Eli stand against machines, climb into the fire, risk his life for them. That was something they understood, and now they were ready to follow. Their next move was dangerous. Strike a fuel depot near the southern ridge. The fuel powered the drones, the mechs, the ships. Take it out, Tand. Slow the enemy. Eli split the team into 3 groups. He took the central path through the ruins of an old human outpost. It had once been a science lab. Now it was covered in vines and bones. As they moved in, something clicked under his foot. He froze. A trap. Vara motioned everyone to stop. Eli slowly lifted his foot. A small device blinked red, then green. Safe. He exhaled and turned around, only to come face to face with a new kind of drone. It didn't attack. It scanned him, paused, and spoke. "Subject 47, it said, you are not authorized to lead." Eli smirked. "Too late," he said, and shot it through the eye. It dropped, twitching. The rebels behind him laughed. Vara just shook her head and smiled. "You enjoy that too much," she said. Eli grinned. "Only when they talk first." They reached the fuel depot by nightfall. It was lightly guarded, too lightly. Something was wrong. Eli crept forward and looked through his scope. Then he saw it. Inside the depot were not just fuel cells. There were prisoners, humans, at least a dozen of them. Trapped in cages, weak but alive. His chest tightened. They were never rescued. He whispered, "Just hidden." Vara touched his shoulder. "What do we do?" He didn't answer at first. He stared at the prisoners, then the fuel. Then back again. He looked at her, eyes burning. "We free them." The battle started quick. Rebels hit from the trees, the cliffs, the shadows. Eli charged in through the front, blasting locks off cages as bullets zipped past him. One guard tackled him. Slamming him to the ground, Eli flipped him over and hit him with the butt of the rifle. A prisoner, a girl maybe 17, stared at him through the cage. "You're human?" she asked. "Yeah," Eli said, shooting the lock. "You're free." The rebels moved fast, pulling the weak and injured out while others set charges. In 10 minutes, the depot was in flames. In 12, it was gone, as the fire lit. Up the night sky, Eli stood on the hill with Vara beside him. The rescued humans stared at him like he was something out of a story. One of them stepped forward. "Who are you?" Eli looked up at the stars. "My name's Eli Carter," he said. "And I wasn't supposed to survive, but now I fight for everyone who is left behind." The wind carried his voice into the dark. The cameras from the ships above captured everything. The alien general watched in silence. "Send in the elite," he finally said. "This human is more than bait. He's a threat." Eli watched the flames rise higher. He knew they would come harder next time, but now he wasn't alone. He had rebels, survivors, and the truth on his side. Let them come this time. The jungle had a voice, and it sounded human. They used to call him Subject 47. Then they called him the Lost Human. Now they called him the Spark. Eli Carter stood on the high ridge, staring at the army moving through the valley below. Dark ships hovered like vultures, dropping machines and soldiers into the burning jungle. But this time, he wasn't running, he wasn't hiding. This time, he had an army too. Behind him stood over 1,000 rebels. Some held stolen weapons, some carried spears. All had something stronger than tech hope. Beside him, Vara tightened the straps on her armor. Made from broken drone plates, she looked at Eli, calm and "Ready today?" she said. "We stop being prey." Eli nodded. "Today, we become the fire." It began at sunrise. The enemy thought they were hunting stragglers. Instead, they walked into a storm. Explosions rocked the jungle floor, set off by hidden traps and mines. Rebel snipers fired from the trees, picking off officers. Vara led a charge through the broken enemy line, her blade cutting clean and fast. And at the center of it all, Eli moved like a force of nature. He fought with a stolen rifle, a jagged blade, and eyes full of rage. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was leading. And every rebel followed without question. The alien command watched from the skies. Confused and afraid, he was meant to test weakness. One officer said the general's voice was cold. He exposed ours at mid-battle. Eli found a command tent hidden under camo netting. Inside was a control console of feeds from dozens of jungle zones and a private uplink. He turned. It on the screen showed a group of officials in a distant star system. Military heads, scientists, rich contractors. They looked surprised to see his face. Subject 47, one of them sneered. "You've done enough damage." Eli stared straight at the camera. "I've only started," he said. "You built a jungle to break people. You turned humans into bait, toys, monsters." He pointed behind him as a drone feed showed rebels raising their flags. "You wanted data?" Eli growled. "Well, here it is. Your test subjects took your weapons, took your traps, and turned them against you. You built predators," he said. "But you forgot humans fight best when we have nothing left to lose." He cut the connection and grabbed the core chip from the console. More proof, he handed it to Vara. "Get this to the evac point." She frowned. "You're not coming?" "I will," he said, "but first, I'm going to finish this." As the final battle raged, Eli reached the heart of the enemy's jungle base. He planted charges around the main reactor. Stolen from fallen power cells, every second mattered. Alarms wailed, lights flashed, enemy soldiers closed in. But Eli fought through them like fire through dry grass. He set the last charge and limped outside, blood on his arms, smoke in his lungs. Then he stopped. One last drone stood in his path. Larger than the rest, a prototype, silver and red. Pulsing with energy, its voice echoed. "Human, you are classified as a level 5 threat." Eli grinned. "Guess I leveled up." He charged, ducked under the drone's arm, and stabbed his blade deep into its core. The machine shook, sparked, and fell. He hit the detonator. The jungle behind him exploded in a tower of fire. Later, at the evac point, Vara waited. She watched the flames rise high, and then, from the smoke, a shape walked through. Eli, half-burned, limping, but alive. She ran to him and helped him sit. The rebels gathered, silent, waiting. Eli looked at all of them, not just aliens, not just soldiers. People, free, angry, ready. He stood tall. "We were supposed to die in this jungle," he said. "But we didn't. They sent us here to break us, but all they did was make us stronger." He raised a broken helmet and threw it into the fire. "No more numbers," he said. "No more bait. No more silence." Cheers erupted, and far, far away, the galaxy began to whisper his name. The jungle experiment was over. The truth had escaped, and the war was just beginning. From forgotten soldier to hunted prey, from a man left to die, Eli Carter had become a legend.